22. Board of Finance meeting, 11/8/22, pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Next on the agenda, public input.
Hi.
Yes, sir.
Lou Valenti, 4 Hoyt Road, Bethel. I'm here as chairman of the Town Park and Recreation Commission, and on behalf of my fellow commission members to indicate our support for purchasing that parcel of land on South Street, which is located directly across the current parking area for Parloa Park. It's really the only natural place for expanding the parking area. Parking has always been an issue there. And you guys, I'm sure, are aware, we've been looking into different ways of upgrading Parloa Park. And certainly if any of the plans, from the most grandiose to the more realistic ones, are passed, it will definitely attract more people. That and our POD will attract more people downtown.
Yeah.
So that's why we're all in favor of taking advantage of this, maybe once in a lifetime opportunity to grab that piece of property. Thank you, folks.
Thank you. Thank you for your input.
Any other public input? Do we have any correspondence? Yes, we do. Marked A1 by Mary. And this has to do.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Take care. Good luck now.
And this is from Eric Swenson, the Director of Public Works, in favor of the purchase of the lot, and he says why. Here we do that. Okay, so let's consider approval of the minutes for the regular meeting. Would you like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the minutes of October 11th, 22's meeting, regular scheduled meeting.
Second. October 11th.
October 11th, yes, 22.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now we have consideration of $4,941 from the CNR fund for United Alarm Video Surveillance for the EVFD.
Cynthia, this is Delene. Hi, guys. Sorry I'm not there. Could I just ask that someone turns on the Town of Bethel camera so that we can see the actual meeting? I can't see that right now.
Coming at you.
Thank you. And sorry I didn't vote in the previous vote, but I didn't actually know what was going on.
You know, that never stopped me, but.
D,
That never stopped you, Cynthia?
Mary,
Okay.
it's not catching a camera.
I
You
know.
know?
I don't know.
Oh, did it catch it this time? Try
D,
it.
can you hear us?
I can hear you. I just can't, we can't see anything. We can only see each other who are on Zoom.
Right.
That's what we see.
Mary's having a problem with the camera.
Okay.
So it might not work out, but as long as you can hear us.
Oh, yeah, you have to go down and click start video. I did. No, it's on mute.
No, I know, she did.
See?
She did.
Yeah. Oh, right there, see? Oh,
Yep,
and then
see, it's saying
yeah.
it's not
It's
detecting the
not
camera.
detect the camera.
Oh, okay.
Should we
Somehow,
say
yeah.
who we are before we start talking, Delene? I mean, do you recognize our voices, or I know you want to see us, but that may not be possible.
Yeah, that would be good for me, but also for anyone else who's watching this and the documentation of it. We can't see what's going on there.
Fair enough. Okay.
Don't touch anything, Mary.
The wire is not plugged into the TV, it's plugged into that box.
Order
So
in the
D,
court, order in the court. We didn't make a motion.
no, but D, the camera is not gonna work, and we apologize, the wire is not plugged in. We're in meeting room B upstairs because of voting tonight. So
Oh,
that's
okay, I got it.
We're going to identify ourselves before we speak. That's what we're doing. Okay?
Perfect.
So did you want to make that motion that I just read?
D, this is Nick Ellis from Bethel. I'm-
Hi, Nick.
Hey, D.
It's not an AA meeting.
I'd like to make a motion for the consideration of $4,941, sending it back to the Board of Selectmen for consideration of COVID money, or for ARPA money.
So you've amended that It's, well, we made a motion.
My
that's sort
motion
of
is
a
to send it back to,
variation. Okay,
right,
fair enough.
exactly.
Is there a second for that motion?
I'll second that motion, but can we fix it up a little bit, Nick? So you made a motion to send back 4941 to the selectmen for the amount of 4941 for the reason for United Alarm Video. I think you should say that in your motion.
For the upgrade of United Alarm for the Bethel volunteer firefighting. So that's for South Street.
Just a point of information, so I'm just thinking, should we vote on this, that we don't want to take it out of, if that's your motion, to not take it out of?
And again, my motion wasn't for CNR, it was to
Right.
send it back to the Board of Selectmen for consideration of the ARPA money.
Okay, so we'll talk about why.
Okay.
Can we do that? Okay, so discussion.
So, it's John Lennon, sorry. So
Hi, Jen.
I understand that we want to send a couple items back for a particular reason that obviously we'll talk about, but shouldn't we just not take any action on it and then it would sit on the agenda and we wouldn't?
No, because the Board of Selectmen sent it to us, so we need to kick it back to the Board of
No,
Selectmen.
I know, but if we don't take action, then it would just,
It would sit out in our Never Never Land, it needs to
Okay.
go back to the Selectmen.
all right, so,
Right, Rich, would you agree with
Yeah,
that?
I agree. Otherwise, it just sits on your table.
Exactly.
all right, so this is probably fair to talk about why some of these numbers are gonna go back that way.
Well, again, Rich and I had some conversation during the week, and there's a few things going on, but the ARPA money, we think is Cynthia and I think it's a good
A better way to
fit
spend money.
for this first responder monies to come out of the, obviously, COVID money. We have other things down the agenda here that we're gonna deal with, so that's just my thinking on it.
Okay, so we want to take a vote on that?
Yeah, it's just
Oh,
one,
yes, of course.
and I take it you guys have talked about whether this would qualify for ARPA money? Yeah.
That was Bob Manfredo.
So is the answer that it does qualify for ARPA money?
Yes, Steve?
Our logic, Dee, was that, when Nick and I discussed it, is that really ARPA money, emergency, fire, police, education. You know, that's really was under the umbrella of ARPA. So
Yeah.
we're just trying to, we don't have power over ARPA, but we're just trying to make the case.
Right, so we're just saying, don't take it out of capital non-recurring, don't take it out of the general fund, like, let's take it out of ARPA because it actually is admissible under ARPA, right?
But we can't decide that. The Board of Selectmen has to decide that. That's why the motion was made the way it was.
To send it-
Right, but as far as the guidelines for what ARPA can be used for, it is within the guidelines.
Absolutely.
Yes.
If Marty wants to confirm that.
Yes, it is within the guidelines.
Thank you. Should we vote on that motion? I'm sure Mary has it down word for word. All in favor of sending this item 5 back to the Board of Selectmen for review for ARPA, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next.
Number 6.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion for the $6,000 for the security system for the Stony Hill firefighting to go back to the Board of Selectmen for consideration of COVID money.
Is there a second?
I will second that, please.
Discussion.
Same reasoning, right?
Yep, same reasoning, right, Dee?
Same. Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. Next.
Again, I'd like to make a motion that we send this back to the Board of Selectmen for the portable pond, and the dollar amount is $1,989 to be considered to come out of the ARPA money.
Second, is there a second? Okay. Discussion or
Or just a
same
question?
logic? Yes.
No, understand that, just a question. What is it? Portable pond?
Yeah, good question, Bob.
They have the tankers and this portable pond sets up and they dump the water from the tankers into this pond and then they pump it out of the, so they keep refilling the portable pond.
It's a
It
line.
was damaged during the fire. They're trying to recoup insurance money on it, but they need to replace it first.
What do they use now for portable pond?
They have two of them. It's a frame, and then it's almost like a pool liner that we're replacing. The frame was okay, but they just set this thing up, and then trucks will just start pouring water in it, so one truck can keep throwing water at the fire.
Go get more.
And go at more with other vehicles.
Thank you.
So Richie, I'm intrigued by what you said about the insurance. So what, if they did get a settlement for that, what would happen to that money?
The insurance money will pay for it, and it would, if we go with the ARPA, it would go back to the ARPA fund.
It would, okay, very good. Okay, next.
But we can't, the fire department just couldn't wait to get,
I understand, I'm only
yeah.
curious because sometimes if something comes through, I wanna make sure it goes back to
yeah,
where
it goes
came
back.
from. So, did we vote on the liner? We didn't.
Not yet.
Okay,
Take a
any
vote,
more discussion about the liner? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm gonna make an executive decision about number 8 because we did what we did. This went to the Board of Selectmen, they said it was okay, so we got nothing more to say on this, so.
There
Cynthia,
was
are
one
you-
slight change, Cynthia.
Beg pardon?
There was one slight change from the last time the Board of Finance saw it.
I did not realize, well, I don't see the,
Oh, yeah, Brad, speak.
The justices of the peace, Rich, which he confirmed with Marty. I guess the state changed the law. They're not elected anymore. They're appointed by the Board of Selectmen. So the justices of the peace, which is right under in the top left under the treasurer,
Right.
used to point to the electors.
we don't have anything to do with, but we have nothing to do with that, so we do not.
Well, it was just,
I
we
know.
talked about correcting the whole flow chart. So if we're correcting one line, we should correct another
Okay,
line. So
fair
it-
enough, so.
But since that information come out, the town clerk notified us that actually she appoints she officially nominates the people for the position. Each town committee submits names to her, and she's the one who authorized them to be sworn in. It's not the first selectman's.
That's fine, Rich. What happens after this?
What?
What happens after this?
They are justices of the
They're
peace.
justices of the peace.
I am.
Who do they report to?
Lisa, I thought, I'm one,
I
and she
believe
appointed
Lisa,
me.
because if they resign to her.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Yeah.
I heard you say they are selected by the party, but she officially nominates them. So she officially oversees them as well.
I believe so.
Got it.
Yeah,
So I can make that change, but we don't need to talk about, we don't need to bring it back. I'll just change it. That the justice of the peace go to the town clerk.
so.
Yeah.
I'll make this motion to accept this chart as per the change that Brad just told us about. Do you have a second?
Second.
I think Bob beat you to it.
That's fine.
Yeah,
Oh,
you're
wow,
okay with that.
it's
Totally
always
fine.
fantastic.
Yeah, I'm totally
It's
fine
his
with that one
chart.
too.
Okay.
It's his chart.
We're getting there, people.
One last question.
So no, you have to vote on it,
No,
but for discussion, yeah,
He's
yeah.
discussing. This is Bob Manfreda who's gonna say something now.
Brad, just one last question. How are we looking for the timing of the annual report?
I know they were dealing with the Board of Ed today. I know not the partner from the firm, but the lead has been out and I wasn't given a reason why. We have all our ducks in a row. It's just a matter of getting the auditors out to audit, which I know they're having staffing issues. I haven't heard it's an issue yet, but I'm concerned that they haven't been on top of us more. And I need to reach out to them.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Do I make this
Yep.
motion?
Again, number 9, again, I'd like to make a motion that we send this request from the police department back to the Board of Selectmen not to exceed the $30,000. This is a upfit for the 2 Tahoes that they approved to come out of COVID money. Again, conversation with Rich during the week, we felt this was a better fit. So again, my motion is to put this back to the Board of Selectmen for their consideration for ARPA money. And I believe the final number, Rich, will come, you know, I think Pugner's still
Yes,
working on it.
yes.
Anyone want to second that?
I will second that.
Probably should be a few dollars less, but.
Yeah, I was gonna say, maybe a cup of coffee, maybe.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now, here we go. Okay, now you'll see that this was added, there's a motion that Marty, the town council, wrote out for this specific item. And this is consideration of the PUC project, approval of a water treatment plant, the suggested referendum. You want to make this motion?
No, you can make this motion.
I can?
Yeah, you
Okay.
can make this motion.
I'd like to make a motion to consider this POC project, which is construction of the Bergstrom well water treatment plant in the amount of $12,290,057, which includes $9,988,250 for construction, $499,413 for contingency, $1,786,394 for professional services, and $16,000 for legal fees, with a possible referendum date of November 29, 2022, possibility of a loan and grant from the state of Connecticut.
I would second that motion.
That is chock full of stuff here. Discussion, I would just like to ask the first question, if I might. That seems like, is that a lot for contingency, or maybe not in this world of construction? It's not. It looks like a significant number to me.
No, well,
No, not in the scheme of
for a $12 million project,
Okay.
but the professional services at 1.7 seems like a
That
huge
seems,
number.
yeah, that too.
Rich, if you can speak to that?
Yes, this covers all the engineering from day one.
Pre-construction and.
Well, the developing of the well, Tom Bill is here, he could answer it, but this is all inclusive in the package, so when we go out for the loans and everything, we want to get reimbursed for everything, so that's why this is a total number. We probably spent 600,000 already on it,
Over 600 on the
development and
planning,
engineering.
testing, drilling,
Pre-construction
getting all the
stuff.
state
Okay, sure,
approvals, design for the package that went out to bid. That was about 600. The construction admin is 1.1. It's about a 2-year project, and I'm hoping it's 2 years. It could go longer with time constraints and deliveries, but that includes about 18 months of full-time inspection. And, there's a lot of different trades within the engineering, electrical, mechanical, instrumentation. So, yeah, it seems like a big number, but I think we need to do that to protect ourselves in terms of getting what's being designed.
So with a $12 million project, do you think $500,000 for contingency? How good are the drawings?
That $500,000 is a straight up 5% of the bid. So
And you feel comfortable with the drawings?
Yes, absolutely. That's been the norm for all of the drinking water state revolving fund projects that we've done over the years. So when you go to the state, it's the construction amount, 5% contingency, and then, so that's
It's
pretty
consistent
standard.
on the page.
And,
pretty
and
standard.
and they review the plans and specifications also.
When you say possibility of a loan and grant, how possible? do you
We're eligible, it's,
What's the process of applying for it, and have you started to apply?
we've been involved with this project and with the state's, it's called DWSRF, Drinking Water State Revolving Fund. This project has been approved and on their list
Okay,
for several years.
and how would that offset the final,
Within the DWSRF and with a lot of the federal money that came in, they earmarked specific lead projects, but also second priority was emerging contaminants. And our well, we have to treat for manganese. So it actually got us into about a $1.5 million grant category. And then separately, I applied for a congressionally directed spending grant, which we got approved. So we looks like we have about another 1.6 in grant available to us. So that's all a plus. But we have to go in for the big number because, that's
Right, we have to
what-
guarantee we're okay to do it, and then we
Exactly.
can pick off the tree.
Exactly.
And also, we have a 2% loan.
Yeah, the remainder, the loan portion is a 20-year low interest rate, 2%, which I think is probably now better than
Yeah, it's great.
than what we
2%.
can
Shit.
get.
Yeah.
right?
Brad Herring, does this impact your debt service scheme?
No, because it's paid by the ratepayers.
Okay, so it's, And how is that gonna be parked out over years or?
So the loan's for 20 years. They're currently doing a rate study plan, which they were doing anyway. They had to put it on hold a little bit to see the size of this project. But there will most likely be rate increases in the years coming, but we're not looking at anything too massive at this point.
But when would you be able to release some sort of statement or something that would alert water users?
Well, even without a rate increase, what we would end up doing, we've had over $1 million we were able to spend on an annual basis on a lot of these projects.
Upgrades, yeah.
When this project hits and that debt service is gonna go up, we're just gonna make sure that we budget for it. We've already got it kind of cranked into the budget. We've done so many of our system improvements that going forward, if we have to scale back a little bit, now that we have this plant, 2 storage tanks, we've done 3 miles of pipe, we've done 3 pump stations, 4 emergency generators. So we've done a lot of our improvements. Going forward, we'll balance the books by not spending $1 million in capital.
To help offset this, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Makes perfect sense. Great. No, again, what's that, Bob? No,
Yeah,
I'm on for you.
yeah.
Tom, sorry, I'm a numbers guy, so I just want to make sure I was following the numbers. It looked like, if I'm following this right, total project cost of 12.3, potentially 3.1 of grants, the 1.6 from the water, the 1.5 from congressional,
Correct.
and then the remainder of that, whatever it falls out to be, will finance through a 2% loan.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, Madam Chairman, can I say something, please? I just want to make sure I have this straight. The last time we were at the PUC meeting, I remember there was some discussions about that there may be some possibilities for grants. I just want to clarify with Mr. Vila that if in fact the town gets those grants are going to be used to lower the entire project of $12 million.
Correct.
Okay. My second comment is I would appreciate it if someone could amend the motion to add the language that I had already presented in in previous motions regarding the funding. And you'll see, I'm going to read it. It says, said funding shall come from bond anticipatory notes, loans, temporary borrowing, or other appropriation as recommended by the comptroller to be reduced by any available grants obtained by the town of Bethel and/or the Bethel Public Utilities Commission, if any. Payment for the appropriated sums shall be made by the water account users of the Bethel Public Utilities Commission. As I indicated before, we seem to have this disconnect between the motions that are made at the Board of Selectmen's meeting and also for the town meetings. And I'd like to get it back on track so everybody has the same language and everybody knows exactly what it is.
So this is the motion that will be at the town meeting that people will be voting, right?
No, they won't be voting at the town meeting. They'll be discussing it. That'll be the motion at the town meeting. They'll be discussing it, and when they're done discussing it, it'll be to a machine vote.
Okay. So
But this makes it clear that we could have a variety of different ways to fund this. But also it's in the motion that the water account users are going to pay for it. And if we do get any grants, it's going to reduce the amount that the town is putting out of pocket for this project.
okay, it's like with school renovation.
I'm just a little confused, but I confuse easily. Marty, I think what you just read is what's on the paper that we saw.
Yeah, but that's right. That's because I presented it, but that's not the motion that was made.
He's right.
The motion that was made was basically the first part, where you ran through the numbers and for the Bergstrom well water treatment.
It's on the agenda, yes, you are correct. So I will amend that motion that I made to fund an amount not to exceed $12,290,057 for construction of a well and water treatment plant for the project referred to and known as the Bergstrom Well Water Treatment Plant Project. Said sum includes the construction costs of $9,988,250, professional services of $1,786,394, bonding and legal fees of $16,000, and a total project contingency of 5% in the amount of $499,413. Said funding shall come from bonding, bond anticipatory notes, loans, temporary borrowing, and/or other appropriation as recommended by the controller to be reduced by any available grants obtained by the town of Bethel and/or the Bethel Public Utilities Commission, if any. Payment for the appropriated sums shall be made by the water account users of the Bethel Public Utilities Commission. Is there a second?
I would second that, but I missed the middle. Can you read that over?
Oh, stop it. You're just making me read these big numbers just to.
No, I'm good. I'll second
ornament
it. I'll
me.
second it. I'll save you the trouble. I'm sorry.
Ornament.
I would have handed it to Mary, but that's just.
No, you know what?
And Mary already had it.
It's under- I,
Good thing it's on camera. All right, so we have a second.
well, we're just discussing it or we're gonna vote on it, so I'm thinking we might be voting on it.
Well, can I just, Rich, again, the town is guaranteeing the whole dollar. The users are paying for the bill.
Correct.
At
Okay.
2%, right, Bill?
Well, unless Brad is gonna tell us the
Hey,
rate is
Nick,
renegotiated.
Yeah, is it 1.7, 7.8 maybe?
Nick, if I could just bring up a point, the town pays for their own water, the town doesn't get free water.
No, I gotta know
So
you're a user just like I
indirectly,
am.
the town does pay for part of it.
Well, no, I get it.
Even if you're not on the
I get
spigot,
it,
right?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
But
That's familiar with
we
that.
pay for that though, we're the taxpayers, so we.
That's what Richie's talking about.
Yeah.
We're all users.
All right, let's vote.
There's a meter, we're paying.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Thank you.
would you like to make
Yeah.
the next motion?
I would love to make the motion that this town, that this Board of Finance takes $125,000 out of fund balance to purchase the property at 134 South Street. So I was second.
Okay,
I'm sorry, who seconded? I did, Bob. Joe.
You know Mary, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, just making sure.
so any discussion? This is kind of old news to me and Nick, so anybody have questions?
I guess the only question I have is, Eileen, this is gonna get integrated into everything you've got going on at Parloa, or will be going on at Parloa?
And like the development of the property,
Yeah, whatever you.
it would probably have to because with the purchase of it, will give additional parking for that park. Whatever renovations, changes, or stays as status quo, I would think we would need to provide that funding within the project to develop it.
Right.
You know what I mean, like make it a parking lot basically, so, and crosswalks and stuff like that. So I would.
But with any changes to Parloa, this will help immediately, you know,
Oh, yeah,
with
it would-
tournaments, soccer moms.
Well,
on
yeah,
Saturday
like,
mornings.
like, just say the plan for Parloa doesn't change for a year, we should invest in trying to develop that sooner than later because of the overflow situation of when there's a soccer game or something going on there, that game's not over and the other people are coming for the game. So, you know, but with any improvements and added features at the park, we'll definitely add the need for parking, so.
You just put it better than the way I asked. Basically, it's not just that we wanna get this thing, it's that we can
We can
integrate
use it
into
Yeah, that's,
whatever
yeah,
happens.
that's the point.
Yeah.
And my understanding is that P and Z said it was okay, but not to pave it, it can't be paved.
Right,
No, it
both
can't
those
be.
parking lots, I think the
It doesn't matter.
something with the
Flood zone.
flood zone area, they have to stay gravel,
Right,
pretty much have to
So-
stay gravel, but they'll be gravel enough where we can paint like easy straight lines, so they'll be part, and that's part of the problem with the existing parking
Organized,
lot now,
parking,
yeah,
right.
Yeah, organized.
okay.
yeah.
Just for, is there soccer dads?
Our soccer dads,
Yeah,
yeah.
'cause I don't think it's really correct to call them soccer moms.
Right.
Soccer dads are
I got
usually the
kicked.
coaches, so.
Not me.
Dave?
So Eileen, so we would be looking at 2 parking lots as opposed to using the existing parking lot to expand the park, is that correct?
Yeah, this would add an additional second parking lot for the park itself. Whether it's totally whatever expansions happens or to improve what's existing there now. So,
It will be across the street and involve a crosswalk.
crosswalk, yes, you'd have to do crosswalk.
And so the new property would be, I think it was what, 1/3 of an acre or something like that?
A little bit over.
Yeah,
A little bit over. And so, yeah, I would just ask if this gets approved, that we look at the capacity for parking that's required. because if there's a chance to expand Parloa, that would actually be probably preferable to just creating more parking that may or may not be needed, right? So I don't know what is needed, but I'm just asking that we kind of put that into the plan to figure it out.
I think that the philosophy is,
The
I'm not
philosophy,
saying that's
yeah,
needed.
That's,
It's already
it's needed as of
needed
what
now.
the way the park is
Yes.
now. But any
I get that.
expansion would definitely make, it would
Even
be,
more.
Yeah.
Only better.
And
They
You know,
just-
I understand. I've been there many times picking up from soccer and baseball, which actually has been played there too. I think that's the original baseball field, right?
yes, it's been the baseball field since this was a high school.
Since forever, right?
Yep.
So yeah, all I would ask is that we actually look at like capacity. If there's a full, more than a third of an acre devoted to parking, like, can we use some of the rest of the property that's adjacent to the actual park? Because this will be across the street, so.
Okay,
Excuse me, the problem with that is to use the adjacent part of the property where we're parking now. Is that what you're talking about, Daleen?
Yeah,
Because there's a brook that runs in between.
no, I understand. But there's multiple things planned for that park, right? It's not just going to be a soccer field or a baseball field. There's a bunch of other renovations planned, right?
but I think the existing parking lot will stay in a parking lot based on the
Yes.
number of.
And
spaces
I
that
also
we-
think,
Yeah.
excuse me, I'm sorry.
ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I think she stopped, so you can go ahead.
I just wanted to say that this is, no matter what happens with the rest of Parloa Field, all right, or the park that's there, this parking is needed right now. And that's what it should be looked at for being purchased right now for additional parking. And it's not contingent upon what happens at Parloa Field later on, whether
Right.
it's expanded or not. It's all by itself.
Seems like a good deal. Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor of this motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, number 12.
All right.
This will be just discussion for the moment, and then we'll make a motion. So make a motion to review the current acting first selectman's compensation. Would second that?
I'll second that.
All right.
Discussion.
Yeah, we're discussing it. So we were discussing this.
Yeah, again, this is brought up a couple times and there's a lot of water under the bridge, but I think we need to discuss this because again, the acting first selectman's compensation, we brought up in May of 2021 and we addressed it. But I think what's happening with this first selectman now is a little different. It's the other first selectman didn't go to Disney World and Rich is here for a couple days. This is a different deal, that Rich is gonna be here for 90 days, depending on what happens with election and day to day, he's putting the effort in. He's willing to talk to both sides. My feeling is he deserves to be compensated for the time. This is not a little part-time thing for 20 days.
Right.
This is
It's a 24-hour a day job, and isn't it after 2 weeks, it's 120 a day right now? Right?
exactly.
Right.
Let me,
Good.
can
And 7 days a
Can I
week.
take a shot at it? So,
Sure.
so the current, in the town charter, it talks about when you have an acting first selectman, right? So I think that the flavor of what the town thought an acting first selectman, to your point, Nick, is when somebody goes on
Yeah.
vacation for a couple of weeks.
Sure.
I think the vacancy, the charter never talks about that there's a permanent vacancy in it until there's a special election. So I think you're thinking about that we need to compensate the acting first selectman in a greater dollar amount because he's doing more day to day and there's not an end date till a special election.
But the charter actually does say that in C-5, when it talks about the vacancy for the first selectman seat, the last point is that the Board of Finance determines the acting first selectman's
Okay.
salary, so it almost seems like it's a fresh thing,
Yeah.
that's a task unto itself, that doesn't even relate to what we already decided. This is the specific thing for the vacancy when the first selectman disappears.
If I may, Madam Chair?
Yeah.
I think the other was just more of a stipend for
Yes.
when the
Yeah.
first selectman was away.
Temporarily.
Temporarily,
I agree.
he was coming back, and probably 50% or 90% of the time, he was still contacted while he was on vacation too, so.
Right.
But that's what I'm saying, that it's a new decision that has to be made.
I think it certainly deserves lunch money, more
Yeah.
lunch money.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, or bus money for, for the TOD.
I've got some Subway cards, I think.
Yeah.
With Granger shop
Train
there.
ticket. Okay, do you wanna throw out some numbers?
I would make a motion that we raise acting first selectman to $200 a day with the expiration date of February 7th. And
The
then
day
we
of the special
revert
election.
back to the 120, if there's some vacation
Well,
time.
So your 200 is times 7, right? So it's 1,400 a week and then,
Exactly. Yep, it's 200, again, it's a 7-day-a-week job. He was getting 120. My motion is to raise it to 200 till February 7th,
I will
when
second
there's a
that.
special election.
I second that. Okay, so shall we vote?
Discussion.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm just curious, how does that compare now?
yeah, I was gonna ask it to the first selectman's current.
Yeah.
salary.
From
Me
what
too.
I-
I'd like to know.
From what I understand, like, I'm not here every day, right, but from what I understand, if we were to put a Matt face on Rich,
Let's
people would
not.
have thought nothing had changed. Because, Rich is here every day, like Matt was here every day, he's 7 days a week.
Rich is a little
sometimes
taller.
24 hours, but, so it's almost like it's a full-time gig. And my first reaction was to go to, well, then prorate the full-time gig salary for whatever the time is. How would that compare to this?
I
That's a
believe,
good question.
Matt, I almost forgot Matt's name already. I can't believe I would have done that
No,
already.
I don't.
I believe it's 320 or 340 for the day.
What was his year?
His yearly was 115.
But aren't there 240 work days? I mean, if we're only working 5 days a week, right?
No, Deed asked the question about 5 days a week, but
It's a 7-day salary, it's 24 hours for 7 days.
That's why when the first selectman goes on vacation, you need an acting first selectman. And you are it.
First selectman received $2,100 a week.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so
it-
$315 a day.
It's $315 a day.
Right.
And again,
But-
And
But he's only required to work 40 hours a week, right?
35.
35, so 2,100 divided by 35.
35, but
But
it's
on
more
call.
than 35, it's more than a 35-hour a week job. You're on call and, if I may, according to the charter, the acting first selectman has all the duties and responsibilities as the first selectman.
of course.
And, I feel that it should reflect more of the first selectman's pay. Starting on February 8th, whoever is elected first selectman is going to get the first selectman's pay.
Mhm.
I agree. And again, I wanted to bring it up because, it should be brought up and the charter says we should bring it up. I was making a compromise at 200. You were not elected, but you were appointed.
That's
And-
correct.
And the voters have the right to have that salary with an election.
Right?
The first
And for the past 7 years, or 7 election terms, I've been the second most vote getter on the Board of Selectmen.
For selectmen, not first selectmen.
Yes, correct, selectmen.
That's fair. So that number came up. I don't know, I didn't hear any other number in our discussion.
I'm okay with that number.
Well, I mean, if we were just to do the math, I don't know, somebody check me, but I think I'm getting this right. It's $63 an hour, and if he's required to do at least 35 hours, which you guys said it's more because it's a 7-day-a-week job. I think it's $2,211 per week.
Well, if I understand her question right, I think your math makes it more hourly rate, because if we're gonna talk about getting that 1,400, it was 1,400 a week, and only think that you gotta work 35 hours, and you divide it into
It's pretty good.
35 hours, it looks a lot better.
But again, he's on call. I get it. You know what I mean?
Hold on, did you wanna say something?
I'm just, again, I'm a numbers person, and it's hard for me to get out of that lane sometimes, right? my recollection is, and my recollection could be flawed, but that we increased the first select salary to, I thought it was 109.5.
It's 115.
It's 109,600.
Say again, Brett?
It's 109,600.
Yeah, that was my recollection. Right?
Well, that makes the number even better, the 200, you know, because you divide, and you take another 5,000 out of the gross.
So Brad, how many hours is that per year then that we're dividing that by?
If you divide it by the 1820, it works out to be $60.22 an hour. Or if you divide by 365 days, it's $300 a day.
At the 109 number.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So $300 a day would be commensurate with what the first selectman will make starting in February after the special election.
Correct.
Again, just crunching some numbers, if it's 109,600, I divide that by 52, that's 2,108 rounding a week, which I think you had that number, we just got.
The wrong gross. He had the divided number out right, yeah.
And look, do we really think about it in terms of hours? I kind of.
No, I don't think anybody with that sort of salary thinks in terms of hours. It's, you're just doing the job. And maybe, you know, you get a long lunch once in a while.
But it's still more than, what is the motion for $200 per
200.
day? So it's more like $300 per day, to be fair to Rich, in terms of what the workload is and can be.
Are you trying, do you want to amend the motion?
Well,
We're in discussion, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
but Dee, to your point, I think 300 is what an elected official gets. I think the Board of Finance right now is just trying to make an exception for a special occasion and trying to make it better.
We're trying to span the breach.
Yeah.
But John, would you accept a lesser job with lesser quality done because it's a lower compensation?
The
I mean,
job
that
has to
doesn't,
be done.
the job is the job, right?
Yes, you have to be here. There's unbelievable amount of work that happens during the day. And Mary's here every day in the office. She can attest to what goes on, what the phone rings and the people that walk into the office. I just go back to the statement in the charter where you have all the responsibilities of the first selectman. And, you know, I'll end it with that.
I'll amend my motion.
You have,
Hold
the
on.
Board of Finance has the power to set the salary, so.
Okay, is there any further discussion? I see you writing numbers, or
Yeah.
thinking about numbers.
Well, you know, one of the things that I've been, I don't know if concerned is the right word, but it's been a focus of mine for the 8 years I've been on the Board of Finance, is to have the first select's salary be competitive, right? To try to encourage as many talented people to be interested in it as we could get. I've shared the story, right, about how the market seems to be much above where our first select goal is. So at 109.6, we're not breaking any market standards. I don't know, I would apply, thinking out loud, which is dangerous for me, right? But I would want to apply, I think, that same market standard philosophy to enacting first select role for some of the same reasons. In that if we have a select,
vacancy, yep.
somebody says, yeah, I'll stay in, or it's just not worth my aggravation at $120. So I don't know how we crunch the numbers, but I'd like us to think about, frankly, just for the stub period, for the applicable period, making it the equivalent of what the elected select person's role is. And if that's the 2107 a week,
Or $315 a day.
make it whatever that is.
Yeah.
I mean, the town is no worse off from a budgeting standpoint, right? It's in the budget. I wish Rich wasn't here because now he's gonna get a big head, but I think we're fortunate that he's in this role. So if we wanted to personalize it to the individual, to me, it seems that's the right number, right? it's gonna be the equivalent of having an elected first select. But it goes back, I prefer not to personalize that, I prefer to think about it in terms of the role. To me, that effort, again, gets me to whatever the equivalent is at 2107.
But if we were looking at it pragmatically in the sense of it's temporary in the sense that it's bridging a gap. This is a very unusual situation for us. That's never happened in a long time. I think it did happen once long ago. But I think the 200 is fair. And because there are some days when you're not working 7 days a week, it might shift, you know? And with all due respect to Richie, it's, you know, you keep the boat stable and you make some decisions, but you're not, it's, as a first selectman, you're not, what's the word, mapping out a whole future, you know, or taking
Well,
actions.
I'm currently here, I have to map out.
I
and
understand that,
We're
but
gonna get into budget season very shortly
I
too, so
understand that. I
I'm
don't
gonna
mean
be
it
involved
that,
with part of that.
right, I don't mean it that way. I mean, in terms of it being temporary for the 90 days or whatever until February 7th, I mean, you know, we can take a vote or we can discuss it more.
Can I ask a
Yes.
question to Bob's point? Are we making, and Madam Chair, I don't know who this question goes to, are we making a policy that will move forward, or is this for this particular vacancy?
It just goes for this case.
So the
until
three, if
this
we said
date.
315 right now, it's for this situation,
Mhm.
but to Bob's point, if we had a couple of 30-year-old selectmen, no, listen to me, selectmen that have a career, we would be in a bad spot if neither one of those people wanted to take the vacancy to be an acting first selectman if the selectman retired or left or died.
Right.
It's the same point that Rich just.
Yes.
That's what I mean. No, what I'm saying is, it's working here because you were semi-retired. But what if we had two 30-year-old guys that were working for IBM? Might not be a selectman candidate someday, because they said if I ever got in this situation, I couldn't work for that when I'm making this.
I can't imagine that someone would quit their job to work for 90 days or whatever until special election, so. if
Well,
it
we'd
was-
be in a bad spot,
You'd
I
be
guess
in
is
a
what
bad
I'm
spot
saying.
because no one
maybe
would take the
you'd
position.
split it between
I
two
think you're
people, I
saying
mean,
we're
I know
this
what you're
close to have
saying.
Brian here. That's dangerous.
Well, what I was going
He
to
doesn't wear
say
sleeves.
was you might split the duties between two, they might work it out, we'd have another conversation, but I
Well, then
think
you have to
we
change
can't-
the charter, you can't have the two working it out.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
There
No,
has to
I'm
be an
just saying,
acting.
you'd have a conversation. That hasn't happened, let's hope it doesn't.
We're not changing policy.
No,
We're talking
not
No,
at
no,
all. Not
that's
at
why we
all.
put an
about
expiration
bridges.
date.
And I would recommend when we ever do get a new charter revision commission to look at the situation for the future.
Because it did happen,
it's-
right,
yeah.
I agree with you.
Now, to Cynthia's point, right, when we set the 120, it was a much different, we were anticipating
Vacation.
Vacation, yeah.
Oh, yeah, Disney.
Right.
To me, this is just
Well-
different. The charter does give us the ability to set the salary. I don't know, I would just go to the 20, make it an even number, 2,100. Sorry, screw you out of $7. But I would just go to what the equivalent is. So I don't know if
In the spirit of keeping a motion alive, would you amend your motion, Nick, or you think you're stuck on it?
I would amend my motion, and again, I think Rich is gone over and above what was expected. And my only rub is that there was not an election, you know what I mean? So I get that the Board of Selectmen had the right to do it, because that's what you guys eventually did. I would amend my motion to make it 250 with the expiration of February 7th. And I think we debated it, and let's you
See
know,
how it lives?
let's see what happens with a vote.
So you're amending it,
To 250 a day, right, 250, if you wanna do the weekly
Well,
salary.
but who seconded that? Who seconded your original motion?
The original one,
Yeah,
Cynthia did.
I thought my brother did, right?
Cynthia did.
Oh, Cynthia did, okay. Are you okay with my amended motion?
I'm not gonna second it, no, I mean,
I know I can get a second on this table,
get a
I
second
know
out
I
of
got
your
a little.
brother
I'll second it.
See?
for
There you go.
discussion.
You're gonna step up.
We're still discussing.
Not that bad.
Never said you weren't that great. I didn't say how bad you were. I had somewhere in the middle. So,
Can I just ask one question while we're in discussion? And this would be effective starting when?
as tonight,
Okay,
Wouldn't it be retroactive since he's been doing the job?
well, it was back and forth. I know with the issue that we had with the charter, not to get, again, I don't run the whole town, but again, my motion would have been for starting tonight. So if you wanna take a vote on this motion.
Well, we're just,
If I may,
Sure.
well, October 7th, that's when we.
that's what I was just
settled
gonna
everything.
ask. It's fine.
From October 7th.
Is when he actually became the acting, not the sworn in
Right,
first select.
Right.
correct.
That's a compromise. I would do the October 17th. And you can see that I'm really bending here. Wow.
From October 7th.
From October
A
7th,
month ago.
That's fair.
Do the,
the 250 a day. I'm sorry, 250 times 7, yes, 1750 for the acting first selectman salary to expire on February 7th.
So are we in discussion, Nick, or?
Bill, yes, we are.
So I would ask you, Nick, just as an HR person from a from a compensation perspective, why would you pay Rich less than what the actual first selectman would make? If you expect him to do a lesser job, then we need to identify what less he should be doing for less compensation.
I didn't create this whole thing. I just want to take it from the 120 to the 250 now. And again, I didn't create the problem. I'm trying to just compensate it closer to where I think it should be. And
No,
again,
I understand. I appreciate that you put it on the agenda. My only point is from a compensation perspective, how do you explain paying him less than $315 a day?
because the voters didn't vote him in.
And because the acting first selectman, that, apart from this particular episode, would be filling in, and we've established that pay. He wasn't doing a lesser job when Matt went to Disney World. I don't know if Matt ever went.
But he was doing it for a shorter period of time.
Right, fair enough.
So there are more extensive issues, planning, things that come up over 3 months' time. And my only question to you is, what less is Rich expected to do than what Matt was expected to do? If you don't expect him to work on Saturdays and Sundays, then I think that's reasonable to pay him less. But if we do, then I'm not sure why, from a compensation perspective, how we could justify that.
Again, how I justify it, I'm not asking Rich to work Saturday and Sundays. He's on call if something comes up, a big fire or a major issue. Then he's expected to come represent the
And
town.
he can manage his own time. It's not even a.
Right, I'm
it's
not even
not-
asking, he doesn't check in, he doesn't he doesn't need to work the 35 hours. He's here to keep the town running. And I don't expect him to do less of a job because it's less money. I expect him he stepped up, put his name in, and this is what, the motion was made to compensate him.
Yeah, I just don't think that's how compensation works in.
I'll put you down for a maybe or no?
I don't want to get us into legal trouble where we were paying for a certain job and now we have hired someone else and we're paying less for the same job.
We didn't hire, it was elected by the Board of Selectmen as per the charter, and this is not a normal situation. This is a temporary thing and we have full jurisdiction over setting the salary. So there is no, Marty, is there any legal repercussions of anything we decide this evening?
No, I don't think there is. I think you're right. He was elected by the Board of Selectmen. He could always turn it down. He chose to take it, knowing that the charter said that this compensation was subject to whatever the Board of Finance said.
Thank you.
So let me just put it, so as a selectman, when you decide that you want to run as a selectman, you are deciding that I want to run as a selectman. At the first meeting of every elected year, you then decide, in the absence of a first selectman, I would like to be the selectman. If you're the majority, you got a second from the first selectman, and you just decided that you're willing to work for $150 a day. In
120.
120 in absence of the first selectman. We are bettering that by going to 250 because we know this is a special circumstance. And with that, go ahead.
Well,
Right, except that
Hold
in the
on.
past, Rich had the opportunity to go work other places on other days to make more income. In this particular situation, we expect him to work full-time at this job.
But he could decline it, like town and
Good,
council.
but where will we be with that situation?
She was wanting to say
all right,
something, yeah.
well, it was up to last year in May when, I came to you, and Matt was away, he had illness in the family, he was gone like 46 days one year. So for me to fill in for 46 days for my normal stipend that I get from the town, being a selectman, the other selectman gets the same stipend, and he didn't fill in for those 46 days. So that's why I came to you and asked for a stipend when the first selectman was gone. His first year, he probably got 2 weeks. He's been here 10 years, he's probably got 4 weeks now. So you were filling in more time, and that's why I came to you and asked for a stipend to help offset that cost.
And
So
I-
that's why the money got to be $120.
Okay.
Otherwise, there wouldn't have even been that.
But the good thing is we
It's
got there.
okay, that's fine.
And I believe, and Dee, to this point, Rich agreed to work 20 days before the stipend kicks
Yeah,
in, so he's
14.
getting nothing.
14.
So that seems like more of a legal, so you could take the 14 and divide it into the math and it looks even better.
So I guess the only other question I would have is, like Bob said, the money's in the budget because it was Matt's salary and Matt's not there. So the justification for not using Matt's salary to do Matt's job, I'm just not clear on that.
My point is, he was not elected by the town people. So we're making a compromise to go 250. We're talking about for 80 days here. You know what I mean? But there's a motion and there's a second. I think we should move the question. And then if someone else wants to make a motion, they're more than welcome to.
Okay, so the amended motion is 250. Okay, we're gonna vote on that. All in favor of setting the acting first selectman's salary until February 7th at 250, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Can we have a vote on the ayes, please?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, can we have a tally?
She can't see you guys.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
can't see.
Mary's gonna count
Okay.
for us.
4 in favor.
But Dee, just for the record, it was Cynthia, me, Bobby, and John.
Yeah, but I didn't get a
And
vote on Bob.
Bob is on the fence.
Hold on.
No,
Bob,
I'm gonna vote no, not
okay.
only because, for reasons, but more so in the vein of setting an example. That said, I understand where you're coming from, Nick. It makes sense to me, it's rational. I just,
I got you.
good people thinking through this stuff can disagree. I'm not looking to be,
I'd apologize every time I voted no. It would be a constant apology.
We'd still be,
We'd still apologize.
I don't mean to be apologizing.
Just, it's okay, just be with that no vote.
So I'm sorry, I just can't see you. So was it 4 yes? And did we do the no vote? Because I vote no too.
Okay, so it's 4, that's fine.
4-2.
4-2.
4-2. Is Dan not there?
No, he's
Dan's
not.
not here.
Motion carries. All right. Ooh, doggy.
I
Okay,
thought I was doing good.
now it's Brad. Brad, you ready to talk about your favorite subject?
I am. You mean everybody's favorite subject? Everybody loves the comptroller report. So the big highlight this month in the comptroller report is under intergovernmental revenues, which is the front page on G1. If you look in the top left section there, it shows that we have collected $730,900 from the state of Connecticut for miscellaneous revenue. We budgeted $282,660. We received $400,000 from the state recently to the municipal spending revenue account, which every year the state says we're going to send you money, and then last minute in the budget they cut it. So per the recommendation of CCM, which is the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities who monitors the budget for us, They said, do not budget for this $400,000. You're most likely not going to get it. We got it. So that's why there's that big budget surplus there. If all the other revenue numbers hit where they're supposed to be, it will fall out the fund balance. But that's really the big highlight this month. Collections are right where we expect them to be. So.
Brad, have you tied up any utilities, any oil or anything, or are you still floating with that?
We're still floating because we get rates every couple days now. The purchasing agent updates us on the rate. And some people won't even give us a lock-in rate because it's so volatile. And the people that will, it's not something that we really want to lock in at. You know, obviously in hindsight, 2 months from now, we could be kicking ourselves that we didn't lock in at whatever high price they gave us today. But it's a scary number to lock in at. So we're still on market rate, unfortunately. We do monitor it all the time. The purchasing agent sent out an update this morning. And trying to think what it was. Let's see. And even that, they say, here's what we think we can lock you in at. So you can call an hour later and it could be different. They were looking at diesel at $4.16 a gallon, gas at $3.24, which sounds good compared to what you're seeing at the pump right now. But keep in mind that we're a municipality and we don't pay tax. Or we don't pay as much tax as others do.
Okay, Bob has a question.
So Brad, the 416, is that our number or is that a consumer with tax number?
That is, the 416 is our number, what we would pay for diesel right now. The gasoline, we'd also have to add, it was $3.24. And we'd have to add the CTGRT, which I don't remember offhand, but I think that was like another 6% or something like that.
I take the point that it's a scary number. I also, though, get scared by kind of speculating, and that's kind of what we're doing. Versus just locking in and having some level of certainty. Right, we may get burned to the upside or the downside, right? Not more the downside, but at least we eliminate the speculation.
The upside.
Yeah,
How long can you lock in for? How long would we have to lock in for?
You could pick, we're looking really at like through the end of June. And I read the wrong numbers because I was trying to do it quick. That was from a couple days ago. This morning, it was $3.57 for gas, $4.32 for diesel.
Okay.
So let's take yesterday's number.
Hold on a second.
On Bob's point.
Brad, to Bob's point.
Yes.
So we have to make a decision at some stage to lock it in, and if it's this
Yep.
volatile, maybe decide on what the price is that you would lock in on, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess the question is, do we really think diesel and gas is going to get significantly cheaper between now, I don't know, Brad, whatever you decide is the right place to lock, right time to lock through.
Yeah.
I'm not following energy all that closely, right? But
Yeah.
I read enough of the headlines that make me think diesel is not going to come down significantly.
What was
So
it 5 days ago?
why not lock in and just have that certainty?
Not to,
Yeah, we're looking at it every time we made the decision 2 weeks ago to lock in, and we called the guy to lock in and the price went up 20 cents. So maybe in hindsight, we should have that day, but that's how crazy it is right
during the
now.
phone call, it went up during the phone call?
No, from when he got the price in the morning to like 2 hours later when we got to sit down and look at it all.
So 2 weeks ago, what was it?
I think the 2 weeks ago, it was we'll pick one, we'll pick gas. So on October 19th, it was $3.24. Today it was then a week later is $3.40. And then October 25th, it was $3.30. November 1st, it was 335. Then it jumped to 357 today. But I think today is a little bit higher with the election, and that could be good or bad depending on how the market feels like the elections went today.
Right. I was just gonna say that.
OPEC
That
announced
energy
production
policies
reduction.
and futures dictate what the price could be.
Right.
You know, if all of a sudden there was an election that made it look like energy policies were gonna change, just the sheer futures could bring the barrel down and change numbers, and we could kick ourselves tomorrow that we locked in.
Well, I think that's gonna happen, honestly. I mean, not to be a political pundit, but I mean, there's gonna be some different approaches, I think, and I think the market will bring it down, but I mean.
So can I ask Brad a question?
Proceed.
So Brad, you've got this history of where it's been the last 2 weeks. What is your move point? What are you waiting on?
Yeah,
I wanted to lock in, I believe the day it hit 330. He sent that over late on a Tuesday. So we looked at it the next morning, and when we called to lock it in, it was already up 10 cents or something. I'm not using exacts because some of these were phone calls and not emails, and we don't have the purchasing agent with us on the call. But it jumped. So I was ready to move at the 330 for gasoline, and then it jumped. So we were hoping, and the guy said on the phone to him, we've seen it, it jumps 10 cents, it drops 10 cents, you know, and we probably should have told them at that point, if you could get 330 again, do it. But it's just all over the place right now. And like I said, some companies won't even let you lock in right now. Our normal supplier isn't interested in locking us in right now. So we're looking at somebody that the Board of Ed uses.
So are we 357 today now, basically?
So this morning, this morning was 357 plus CTGRT.
What is that?
6%.
Sales tax or something?
6%.
What is that?
I think it was. I believe, and Sebi's on, and Sebi, if you are, it looks like it says 5% on commercials less in industrial accounts. So maybe it's 5%, not 6%.
So when are you gonna jump in? The water's not.
Hold on,
Nice.
Sebi just unmuted.
I believe it was 6% in addition to the price that Brad just read out.
And on both diesel and gas?
Just on gasoline.
Yeah,
Diesel doesn't have it.
But Brad, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe they said we had to lock in over 40,000 gallons.
Oh, that could have been part of it too, why we couldn't lock in that day, which is more than we usually use. We're looking at to try to cover the winter season.
That was a lot less than 40,000 gallons.
So,
So you're
like I
watching.
said, nobody really wants to lock you in right now. I think they gave us pricing just to try to get our business, but they don't really want us to lock in because it's so volatile.
Okay. I guess there's nothing, we just follow.
Brad?
There's nothing we-
Brad, what's our current supply? Do we have a significant supply currently?
I think they did a refuel in the last couple weeks. Usually it's dictated by the highway supervisor, Bob Dibble, calls us when the tanks are getting low and lets us know if he needs diesel or gasoline.
Is it 2,000 gallons at any point on hand? Is that what the tank is, or?
I think that, hold on. Instead of guessing, I can look it up, I believe. Unless you know offhand, Sebi, but I'll look in the charts.
I believe it's a 5,500 gallon tank. I'm not quite sure.
We must have more than 500 gallon tank.
65.
Oh, 55.
65.
60.
I think she said 65.
She said 50.
So what was it? What was the, how many gallons on hand? I'm sorry?
No, that's.
I
the
said
size
I
of the
believe
tank.
it's 5,500 gallons, but I'm not quite positive.
Thank you.
And Brad, you think we need to have a minimum purchase of a purchase commitment of 40,000 before we can lock in?
That's what Sebia said. I think that's what the vendor that'll give us a quote was looking for. The Public Works garage for diesel fuel is a $6,000 gallon tank, and the gasoline is the same size at 6,000 gallons.
Okay.
At
Our
40,000.
last purchase of gasoline was 3,800 gallons on 10/25.
Okay, so would you be able to give us an update between now and the next regular meeting? Like maybe a
Yeah,
sample
we are
prices?
monitoring this every day, so, or every couple days, so if we get a good opportunity to lock in, we will.
He has we don't have to approve it.
No,
He
we're
has
not
the
approving, I'm just
authorization. Yeah.
asking.
So I mean, he's watching it every day and he's making an educated guess on betting on the futures.
I understand what he's doing, it's just that, to Bob's point, it's just, you have to, at some point, do something.
We all did that this summer, we, at one point,
Right,
we, you know,
so-
we said, okay. yeah.
That's why I'm
If they're
asking.
gonna make us do 40,000, we're not locking in anyway, so.
Right. That would be a deal breaker because you're not gonna buy 40,000 gallons at
Yeah.
a price to make you feel comfortable and then
Not that happy.
there's a point with recession that number is gonna break and you don't wanna commit to 40,000
No.
gallons
Oh, of course not.
at a
For Ukrainians, there's lots of factors.
a lot of factors.
Yeah, all right,
Great.
so we'll just.
I like
Just
to make,
for, just a point of reference, what we asked for the quote was for 17,000 gallons of gas, because that's what we thought we needed to get through, I think, the end of April.
okay, so that's even more to the point.
Okay,
Hey Brad, what did we pay last year? What was the price last year?
It was like high ones, like $1.90 or something like that.
It was $1.82.
Oh my god, that's
Okay.
terrible.
so do you wanna make?
I make a motion that we
accept
accept Bob's, I'm sorry,
Bob's?
not Bob, Brad. Brad's still there, right, Brad? Yeah. His,
Yeah.
comment.
Second.
it? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, okay. All right, so we just have one more thing, the consideration of the special joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance, change the 11/22 to 11/29, that's where it should be. This is for the Board of Ed to, give us an update on the grant for the HVAC. Also, they're gonna be presenting this to the Board of Ed on the 17th at their meeting, so that would be an opportunity.
Is it the same presentation, like we should
Yes.
try to get there, or
Yeah, I mean,
it'll give you some time
Yeah.
to pose a question, you
Nick
know?
and I do that, and then we know the questions kind of when, but if you can, it's the 17th, but let's vote on having the special meeting on the 29th.
Madam Chairman, that's also our town meeting on the water treatment plant.
The 29th?
No, the 17th.
Oh, the 17th, okay.
town meeting.
You're talking about during their presentation, I got you.
Okay,
Where are we having that joint meeting? Are we gonna do it in a big enough room or
meeting
something?
room
or-
A, Mary, I'm thinking.
No, we have our hearing in the meeting room A.
Are we
Would
gonna
you
do-
be
The
doing
town
it in
meeting.
the board bedroom? Meeting
That was
room?
the board bedroom.
On the 17th?
Our special,
No, she's talking about the 29th.
the special meeting,
The joint meeting.
Joint meeting.
Board of Ed, Board of
Yeah, we
Finance.
can have that. Oh, we
I'm
can have
talking,
that
the board
downstairs.
of, yeah.
Yeah.
The 29th, we're going to meet in meeting room A, as per usual.
Yes.
Okay. Motion to have a special joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance on 11/29/2022 at 7 PM in meeting room A for Board of Ed HVAC grant update. Anyone want to second that?
I'll second it.
Okay. Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm just going to abstain, only because I believe I'm not going to be here.
Do you abstain in advance?
You can still vote on that we're having a
Anything
joint
could
meeting.
change.
It's gonna be Zoom.
No, he's not gonna say.
He's got family.
He's got a life.
Yeah, he's gonna be drinking.
I don't think you can pre-abstain, can you? I guess you can.
No, it's just to abstain from setting the meeting.
Right.
I don't want to say, yes, let's have the meeting, because I'm
And then
not going to
show
be
up,
there.
And then not show up.
All right, that's fine. 5-1. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Yeah. Who's gonna second that?
Second.
All right, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
See you later.
Good night, everyone.
All right, good night.
Hey.
Hey,
Right. It's like I would have missed it. It's like